Okay, Dame.
Yes, King.
First of all, I want to say, thanks for allowing us, as always, into your space. When I told people I first had the idea that I wanted to sit down with people in the city who are help shifting the culture. Your name was one of the names that repeatedly came up,
I appreciate that, man.
and one of the first names I thought about. So I just wanted to start off by saying that first of all.
It's an honor, man. Definitely an honor.
Thank you, man. So, people are familiar with you now in the city, but I want to give people who may not know just a little bit of a backstory.
For sure.
So I want to start a little bit from the beginning, if you don't mind. So, where exactly were you born?
I was born in Kingston, Jamaica, man. On the island where the spice is right.
Okay, so you were born in Kingston. Were you raised in Kingston, or how long did you spend in
So
Kingston?
I spent 7 years in Jamaica. I was raised on the north side of the island in St. Anne's, same parish that Bob Marley was born. And I wasn't far from where Marley actually grew up in 9 Mile. I was in a little place called, what's that place called? Sorry. It's a little place called York Castle.
Okay.
So I was in a little place called York Castle, not far from like Duns River Falls, Ochi Rios, where a lot of people go. But it's way up in the hills where the ganja is right.
Yeah. So what are some of the memories you have? I know you left at a fairly young age.
Yeah.
What are some of the memories you have when you think about those early years in Jamaica?
Well, those early years in Jamaica were important for me because they're definitely formative years. My mother left me when I was 2 years old to come to Canada to try to bring the family here, So my brother and I were left behind with family. I was raised with my aunt from I was age 2 to 7, right? So I had people around me that loved me, but I didn't have that primary relationship with my mother like that. My father wasn't in the same city as I was, so I had very different upbringing, and that I think that helped me in a sense that I'm able to make friends very quickly and easily. It's perhaps as part of survival. You can get to a new space and you just adapt, because adaptability is key. So when my mother came for me at age 7, she was a stranger to me. So those are my early memories of my life.
So what was that like? I feel like with a lot of people, especially from the Caribbean, especially, that's an average story.
Yeah.
That the mother or father will come here first and send for the kid, or
For
come
real.
back for the kid. How was integrating back into life in Canada, not only in a new space, but with a mom who you're not exactly familiar with or don't really know? How was that transition?
It was very difficult, man, because you come without knowing. You automatically you start experiencing a culture shock. Everything's very different. I came in the month of February when it was freezing, snow outside. I've never seen snow before, and I remember my mother telling us, you're gonna go to Canada, you're gonna see white people. Who's white people? I've never seen white people in my life.
Yeah.
So you come, you experience all those things. And as a kid, the weather doesn't bother you as much sometimes because you put on a snowsuit, you're good. You're out playing, you got a toboggan, you're good. You know what I mean? But then when you start to struggle a little in school, or you start becoming agitated for little things, you start acting out, you don't know why you're acting out. I only learned about culture shock maybe 10 to 15 years later, after I'd come to Canada, after I'd gotten into loads of trouble.
Because you don't recognize it.
You
when
don't
you're
recognize it. Absolutely. You're just in the funk. You don't know what's going on. You're missing your dad. You're missing whoever. You don't know how that's playing out inside of you. Subconsciously, there's a war going on inside, until you kind of get wind of that, and someone can sit you down and say, yo, man, what's happening in your life? These are the things that are playing out. And when you start to see it for yourself, when you start to be able to take control of that, step back and find some kind of balance, then you're able to kind of find your way and create a kind of equilibrium that helps you to kind of get on your feet. And it took some time.
So when you first came here to Toronto, whereabouts in Toronto were you living?
So I grew up in Rexdale, and part of my early life was in Jamestown, in Rexdale, and then like Kipling and Steeles, up in those ends, and then I ended up in Islington in Rexdale, close to a school called Don Bosco, which is not far from like Rexdale Mall. So that was my ends for a long time, and those are my stomping grounds. That's where I learned to be creative. That's why I had tons of other people around me that also had their own creative desire. And I just remember sometimes not being able to afford all the things that I wanted, so I had to be creative and make it. When people were wearing fly like down jackets and triple gooses, I couldn't afford a triple goose, so I go to the mall, buy a jacket that could look like a triple goose, put a fur on it, sew some leather on it, and be fresh, right? didn't have the branding, but I was creating my own thing.
It's
Absolutely.
a one of one.
The one of ones, man.
Okay.
So you learn early to survive and to create your own things.
What do you think it was about growing up in Rexdale and around that area that made you that innovative, creative person? What was it about those surroundings that brought that out of you?
Because, you know, I grew up in Ontario housing, and part of that is you're labeled the have-nots. Everyone else around me lived in the nice houses, the Italian kids, they had everything. So you could see who had and who didn't have. And when you don't have, sometimes they say, you know, you'll use that as fuel to become creative, to create the things that you're missing. So what I always loved about the people within my neighborhood, they always had a soul. There's always like a burning desire within them. Whether they got into the wrong game or another game, there's a desire to create something. And so I found a way to engage like a culturally artistic kind of society. Breakdancing was fucking crazy at the time. And I love seeing people express themselves.
Paint the picture a little bit. So what year is this we're talking when breakdancing and stuff first came around?
This was the 80s, man. We're talking 84, 85, okay. 88. As you start going up, like 88, breakdancing was waning. But in the like mid 80s, man, there was just something magical about that. Just seeing people create something out of nothing. I always believe that as long as you have the desire and you can remain positive, you can always find some silver lining in the clouds. You can always, and I'm a very optimistic person. I always believe that I can. You know, it's like I don't know if you guys are familiar with George Lopez, that comedian. I remember he was trying to teach his son how to play baseball,
I used to watch the show.
And his son was trying to bat, and he pitched to him like 2 or 3 times, and Max was like, "Dad, I can't hit it." He's like, "Max, I don't want to hear you say I can't. We're Mexicans, not Mexicans."
I do remember that.
Right?
Yeah.
That's what I believe, man. I believe that if we put our heads together, collectively, we can find our way. We can find a way, and someone can create the poison within our community, but it's up to us to find the solutions. We got to take the time to find the solutions. Garvey always talked about organizing. Organizing is the key. Like if we organize, you don't have to do every facet of the job. You can do one aspect, another person can do another aspect, but if we come together, it's like that Voltron syndrome. We can get a lot of shit done and be way more powerful together than if we're on our own. So I learned those things from my community as well. As mishmash as it was, there are people who had spirits. So I always like to be around people who have a spirit and a desire to succeed, man.
Okay, so now we're growing up in that area. So we're talking about early 80s, hip hop's in the picture. What was your first, what would you say was your first introduction into entrepreneurship?
You know, when I was a kid and I needed some money and I wanted to make my own money, my first personal introduction to entrepreneurship was my paper route. My paper route. By the time I had one Toronto Star, I quickly had a second, the Toronto Sun, and I had a third, the Guardian, on a Wednesday. And I hustled that, bought my trolley to deliver and make sure the customer service was there. So I learned little things. It didn't make a bag, but I was trying, and I was trying to earn. And then we do, you know, Christmas caroling from door to door, just all kinds of little shit that would put something in our pockets. And you learn from that. One thing leads to the next, and you start to build that. And then in grade 9, I took an entrepreneurship course before I even knew what the word really stood for, entrepreneurship. And that opened my mind up.
That was before it was kind of cool.
Absolutely, way before it was cool.
Yeah.
You know, I just knew that, you know, like my grandmother, when she was back in Jamaica, her husband would farm. She would take all the produce, go to the city and sell it. She put her kids through school like that, right? So that was also perhaps for me the first entrepreneur in my family. So everything I do, I kind of liken it back to what my grandmother was doing. When she'd take those goods from the country, go to the city, sleep overnight with her goods, wake up in the morning and sell them. That's a hustle, man. That's a real hustle. And without a real education, she sent all of her kids to school. Some of those kids have university educations right now, living in Canada, working their big job. And who do I
and it all stems
owe
back
that to?
to
Yeah.
your grandmother, yeah.
That's grandma, man. That's that hustle. So it has to come from somewhere.
So would you say, I know you said a lot of it ties back to your grandma, the entrepreneurial spirit, you seeing her doing it herself. Was there anybody else that you looked to, maybe more locally or on TV, or someone in your life at the time when you were here that kind of instilled that business mentality in you?
So, I've always been inspired by other people's stories, and so I always find it important to learn about people and the things that they're doing. I mean, if you look way back, I always loved musicians. Musicians were always like key for me, and I guess there's a certain kind of score to life that they bring to all of our lives. You know, my first musician that I truly fell in love with, man, and I'll tell you, it was LL Cool J, right? Just because he had the ear to the street. He had the ear to the street, like my radio, all these songs, they spoke to your heart, especially when you weren't getting black music on air, or black faces weren't coming on TVs. You know, if they were there for 30 seconds, I was watching every 30 seconds of that. And then you start to hear about their stories, how, you know, grandma maybe bought some turntables for some kids and they were messing around in the basement, but their passion grew because someone believed in them, right? And so when you see those guys, and then you start to see how Russell Simmons and all these guys formed out of that whole kind of grouping, and how those guys turned hip-hop as a culture into a business, those are the guys that motivated me early, seeing that. And truth be told, I kind of always would follow a path where there is a natural flow. Like for me, creating a brand was always important to me, because I always believe that we all have something to contribute to this life, and you got to believe in yourself in order to do that, because you're going up against all these other brands that have been out here. There's a lot of noise out here, but you got to believe in your shit in order to bring it to the table. And if you don't believe in your shit, just quit the game. Quit it already. No point. But I'm inspired by people, and saying that, there's a lot of people now, if I look back, I'm inspired by what I saw Nipsey do, what I see Jay-Z doing. There's so many people that are out there, you know, putting a stamp and their mark on the planet. Because if you look at it, man, when hip-hop first came out, they said it was a fad. Yep. It was a fad. Back then, rock and roll would sell out, let's say, places like the ACC or the Garden.
Yeah.
Those days are done.
They're likened to something like disco, like it's gonna come and it's
absolutely
gonna pass.
Those days are done.
Past that.
Look at the biggest genre right now. It's hip-hop. It's hip-hop. And where did that music come from? That came from a voiceless people. But that's the thing, you can't stop that passion, that drive, that thing that makes people level up. You can't ever take that away. There's no way to stop that, because it comes from an impassioned place.
And it's very true. Speaking about a voiceless people, so now I know prior to Brimz, I was informed that you were involved in a program with some of the voiceless youth in the community. I was told it was either called Shoot With This or Shoot With Us.
Shoot With This.
Can you tell me a little bit about how that program, what it was, how it started, and what was your role with it?
I mean, I was always inspired by giving back. You know, we have this motto, learn, earn, return. And so I was at one of our holiday locations out in Mississauga in Erin Mills. We had a location there during the Christmas months. And so one of the social workers from Jane and Finch was shopping, and we just got into a quick conversation. His name was Edgerton Blackwood. We had a conversation. He was telling me about the youth in his neighborhood, at the schools that he works at, C.W. Jeffries, Westview Centennial, and he wanted to kind of implement a business program there. But I was in New York, and I found this book called Young Filmmakers at this bookstore called The Strand. I would always go there and just spend hours there. And his book was very inspiring, because it was about educators who more or less tried many different ways of engaging street youth, but nothing engaged them quite like the film, because the medium of film allowed them to kind of have self-reflection. It allowed them to create something. And even if they didn't know the words that they wanted to kind of portray, if they saw an alleyway and they said, yo, I want that alleyway in the shot, it was a beginning point where they can start something and create a scene, and then people would interview them after the film was screened. And then the kids would be part of the process and give their take on the Q&A. And it was a wonderful thing, because they were fully engaged, and he saw those kids come alive. So when this guy was talking to me about business, I know that business is not a cure-all for all the shit that people are going through. Yeah. So first you got to address like their real problems. And so we were able to, I said, you know what, let's start a film program in the school. And he was down with that. And we had gone to the school the first year. We more or less brought all the laptops in with the editing software. We brought the cameras, the boom poles, the lights. We did it all. We created a little script quickly on the spot. We had them act it out. We taped it. We edited it in class, cut it up, put it on the screen. They saw themselves on screen for the first time. That was magic for them. That was like the hook, line, and sinker.
They probably couldn't believe it.
Couldn't believe it.
They're really on that.
And we did that. And they're in. And from that, that's how the program started. But it was also the year of the gun. And so he was looking for ways of engaging youth and giving them a creative outlet. So we named the program Shoot With This because we wanted them to shoot with a different kind of machine. One that could impact their community in a positive way as opposed to a negative way. Shoot with what? Nah, shoot with this because you can be creative. And some of those kids have gone on to get grants that are worth over $300,000. Literally. I took those kids to City Hall. I had meetings with folks that were able to help them level up. Some of these kids have gone on to post-secondary education. They've graduated. They've done their film and video broadcasting courses. Like, these guys have gone out into the world. They make me proud, man.
Yeah.
They make me proud. So to see them step up and take control of their lives is a wonderful thing, man. That's fulfilling.
That's amazing. And this was, I guess, initially with kids in the Jane Finch area, correct?
Yeah.
That's dope,
definitely. Because when I was a kid, I used to play basketball in Jane and Finch at Driftwood Community Center, man. Go up there on Sundays, have a run. Used to have a girlfriend that I'd go check up there. So it was part of my stomping grounds, you know what I mean?
That's really dope, man. I think that it's really interesting that you said that program started when it was the year of the gun, because we're kind of reliving that same kind of time right now. What do you think? I know there's no perfect answer, obviously, to stop it or even a quick answer to reduce it, but what do you think is missing in the city right now that could help to reduce or counteract some of the gun activity that's going on right now?
So check it out. I was once one of those kids, right? Money's not the solution to solve the problems, because a lot of what people are missing right now, a lot of what those kids are missing right now are meaningful mentors in their lives. So a man told me once, children spell love T-I-M-E. It's the time you spend with them that lets them know you love them. So let's say you had influential people that really cared. They'd go into those communities from the kids are young, and you give them experiences that will enrich their lives. Take them friggin' camping, show them how to do things, teach them how to engage the kind of careers or things that they want to do. And then you put money behind it, because now you're showing them. Like when I was a kid and I was playing basketball, I wanted to play basketball. The coaches that I had, they said, okay, you got to go to these summer camps in the summer. So we'd save money. Come summertime, I'm in the States for 2 weeks at these camps. I come back fulfilled. When I'm playing basketball during the school year, I had those experiences with all those other crazy players. I know what I'm about. I know what I want. I'm going hard for it. If I got to get up at 6 in the morning, I'm doing it because I'm invested in it. Those kids don't have anybody that's investing in them. And sometimes, like it's the whole African adage, the village raises the child. Sometimes, like even my Indian mother, I got mothers from all different continents. My Indian mother says like this: here in Canada, you got the mother raising the child alone. It's friggin' hard. You got the whole nuclear family raising the child, all the pressure's on them. Whereas back home in Africa, in India, you got like
most
so many people,
countries in general,
helping you with the kid, So the kid, all that pressure's not all on you. These mothers, you got them living in housing. All the pressures of life are on them daily. They can't know everything about the kid and what the kid's going through, so they're missing a lot, right? And so these kids come up, when they're missing all this shit, naturally when they grow up and they have to fend for themselves, egos get bruised very quickly, right? Because things are out of kilter. If we could address all those situations young, you're gonna have well-adjusted human beings that know there's something bigger out there for them, even a bigger vision than ours, because it's been nurtured, and they can go out and get real shit. You're not fighting over like some little region, these communities that they're not feeding you. What are they giving you? And if you fought for them, you don't own one building there. So what are you fighting for? What are you fighting for? It's like this landlord, her father gave her this building. She probably makes $100,000 a month off of this building, off of one building. Fight for that. Fight for that.
Something that you own.
Yeah. She gets that money and she doesn't sweep. Not one broom for the month. That's crazy. Don't fight for what's over there, some little region. You don't own nothing there.
That people will easily come and knock down and displace you.
Easy. So, for me, man, like the whole answer to the gun violence is nurture the kids early, nurture them young. Get in there and assist. It's not just money. Teach them. Spend time with them. So if you're a leader in your community, don't just teach your own kids. Come in and teach the kids that don't have access to even proper parenting. Help them with some real friggin' time spent, man.
No, I think it's really true, and it's something that's a reoccurring kind of theme and answers from people who are coming from a similar mindset as you. That's what is needed so much, and not enough actual dollars and manpower being put behind it. And something that I've personally repeatedly said is that I don't think enough is being. I think that we're focusing on the teens right now are a lot of the problem.
Yeah.
But a lot of those teens are kind of stuck in their ways.
Yeah.
And I think we're now people who are a little bit detached are focusing on the teens, when really we should be focusing on the children.
Absolutely.
Who are watching the teens.
Absolutely, because they're watching the teens.
You're focusing all your energy and funds into the teens who might have already been I hate to be pessimistic, but some of them are set in their ways.
Yeah, you missed them.
Focus on the 6 to 13 kind of kids that are still in those formative years.
Malleable, you can shape them. Yeah,
you can shape them. So absolutely. I think it's really true what you're saying. Get to them young.
Absolutely, because you know the cool thing is, like if someone steps in and helps those kids, I remember when my coaches would help me, I didn't want to let them down, so I'm not gonna do something stupid. Yeah. And if you're there helping a kid like that, he's not gonna want to let you down as well, because you do this silly act, and now you're gonna have all these people that are disappointed in you. You don't want that. See, a lot of those kids, because no one helped them, these teenagers. Yeah. They could do something without any remorse because no one helped them, so they're not going to feel sorry for anybody.
Yeah, it's true though, because a lot of time when people have someone to let down, like if there's a father figure, if someone's blessed enough to have a father figure in your life, a lot of times you don't do wrong because you don't want to come home and disappoint.
Exactly.
And if there's not a father figure, whether it be somebody in a structured program or just somebody you know has been guiding you down the right path, you're like, I don't want to go with you guys tonight because if I get caught, they're going to be like, come on, man.
And you know those people cared for you and you let them down.
Right? And if you don't have that, who are you doing it for?
There you go.
So I think that's a really good point. Taking it back a little bit to, I know you spoke about a lot of the kids that you helped mentor in those initial programs, went on to do great things, went on to do post-secondary. Just doing a little bit of research, I know that you had some experience with post-secondary yourself. In this day and age with technology and all the different options, what's your view on post-secondary education in 2019?
So, I mean, you can learn anything you want right now on your own if you want to, but you got to be disciplined, and you can't waste the time because time gets wasted quickly. I still think post-secondary is useful. It's not the answer to everything, but it's useful just because it teaches you how the world works. Sometimes the world needs a paper for you to be able to access the upper levels, the upper echelon. So that paper is basically a key. That degree that you have can get you a job, but is it a job that you want? Or you want to create your own kind of structure? So it depends on the kind of individual you want. If you want more of a struggle, then learn on your own and create your own unique path. If you want to just a turnkey kind of operation, go get your degree. Go get your degree. But in anything that you do, if you do find success, don't be an asshole at it. Help the next man. See, I read something recently and I try to live my life by those two kind of pillars. The first was, who did you help today? The second was, what did you learn? And I thought those two things were so simple and profound because they say you're the most beneficial to the planet when you're useful. Make yourself useful. And if you can be useful to others, not just to yourself, it comes back to you full circle. All the gifts come back to you. It's a system of reciprocity. It comes right back, man. A lot of people don't believe in that. I believe in that because I've seen the benefits of it, man.
And I actually wanted to touch on that a little bit. That's one of the things I wanted to discuss. Just getting to know you over the past few years. In business, I know that we often hear that it's often said that to be a businessman you have to be shrewd, selfless, cutthroat, egotistical. You I guess media, mainstream media, and just popular opinion would have you believe that that's what a businessman or owner is like, an alpha male, somebody who's just out for self, ruthless. But my encounters with you and other business people, it's not always the case. So my experience with you has been the polar opposite. So why do you think that idea is the norm? Do you think that most business people in your experience are like that, and why do you feel like you don't have to be?
Some are like that, and I just had an experience with a supplier that I was using in a foreign country, and I've used many suppliers, and a lot of them are super sweet. They're on their game. You ask for something, you're getting it. Like I just had to do an order for a client. They needed these pins within like 7 days. Normally pins are like a 4-week kind of scenario. You need that for the project management. And these guys were able to, as long as I said I needed it, I had to pay a rush order, but I got it within the 7 days. That's unheard of. There are other people that I'll mess with and I'm short shipped. All kinds of scenarios happen. So it's based on the individuals and their own moral character or compass. You know what I mean? We all have our own personalities. If someone truly cares about the other and they want to continue to do business, you're always going to make sure that your word is bond. And if your word is bond, why wouldn't you do business with them continuously? And so by doing that, you're showing that you don't just care about the money that you're making, you actually care about the person you're dealing with, because you also want them to make money. So if he's asking you to do something well, you're going to do it well also. And I think people just get it twisted and think that you have to be a shithead in business because it's business. You shouldn't give a shit about the other man, just get yours. But that's not the way business works. Business basically exists within an environment, within a community. And you'll look at it. Look at the Chinese. They come here, they form their own communities, they support each other, right? If they're pissing each other off all the time, where would the support come from?
True.
So you can't do that. But again, it's about your own personal type of character. You know what I mean? If you want to live in an antagonistic way with people, then you're going to be an asshole. That's not my MO. I don't need that in my life, because the sins of the father can visit the children as well. I don't need that.
So you might not, I feel like it's a really good point that sometimes being a good person in business might not always get you the best immediate results, but karmically that good energy is going to come back around tenfold.
Absolutely, but you also have to know what you want. Yeah. If you have the intention, you can get what you want even being a good person.
Yeah, you don't have to go that other
You don't
way.
have to. You don't have to. So people always ask me, yo, if you were an animal spirit, what would you be? And I like hawks, but I also tell them, yo, I'm a shark. And they ask why? Because I'm like, yo, I'm friendly. But if you fuck with me, I'm going to eat you.
Yeah.
Right?
But you don't present that.
I'm not coming out to eat you.
Exactly. 100%. So,
but don't be a fuck up.
Nah. I'll show you. So I know that, just bringing it back to trying to go through the years. So you're in college, kind of finding yourself, figuring out your way.
Definitely.
Doing my research, I saw that you said that you were cutting hair in college.
Yeah, man. I was cutting hair before college, high school.
You're cutting hair from high school to get by. King. So where did that come from? Was it something you were interested in, or something that you saw as a hustle, and how did that provide for you during those years?
Man, it was definitely a hustle, but I saw something that I could do. I always looked at different ways of how I can help myself, and help myself more or less like using my own schedule. And so I'd go get my hair cut on Eglinton. I'm looking at the barbers cutting, and then they'd have like consumers distributing in these stores where you can go and look in their catalog and buy the things that you want. I saw clippers in there. I jumped on my bike, I went to consumers, bought my clippers, came back home, hit up my homies like, yo, come upstairs, I'm gonna cut your hair. I'm cutting your hair for free, but I'm practicing. And I started cutting. I got good enough that I'd start cutting at lunchtime in the change rooms at school. And by the time I finished, I'd have like a little stack for lunch.
What?
Yeah, so Barbering taught me how to give exceptional customer service, man. I had clients like Lennox Lewis. I had so many clients over the years. Come Caravan, I used to have people lined up for me waiting. I'd be cutting all through the night. So I developed a name and a reputation as a great barber, but I knew that it was hard work. So entrepreneurship for me was important. I also wanted to sell a product, not just a service where I had to stand there and do the labor all by myself. I need to figure out another way. And so if the mind is working, the mind is gonna find something.
What was it like? What was it like initially knowing that something you're doing is getting you that initial cash return right away? Was it addictive, that feeling of finished 20 or 10 and
Absolutely.
You want to do more and more and more?
Absolutely.
Did that kind of put something in you, a fire in you to continually do that in some form or fashion?
Big time. You just want to do more. You want to keep that frequency flowing. You don't want that to stop, and you want to increase the frequency for sure, man. So you start thinking about different ways to engage. We started to create a product. You know, we had a first company called Big It Up, and it grew out of the barbershop, man.
So I want to get into that.
Yeah.
That was actually my next thing. So before Big It Up, or maybe it was during, from barbering, where did the interest in hats and the business of hats come from?
So when we started Big It Up, which was an early company in 1996, when we started that, more or less, I found an old hat at one of my suppliers in Scarborough, and we actually made a cologne at the time. It was like a unisex fragrance, kind of like Calvin Klein had this big fragrance called CK1 at the time. Okay. That was huge. Tommy Hilfiger was huge at the time, had these fragrances. So we were dealing with this Hungarian chemist, and he gave us access to all these fragrances. And he had this laboratory in Scarborough. So we'd go out there and be spending like days upon days upon days with this man. And he's just teaching us about the fragrance industry. And so we decided to create a little fragrance. But then you need to promote the fragrance. So I'm out buying t-shirts, and I find an old hat in the bin. And it was a hat that was made by an old Greek tailor that used to have a place on the Danforth. So naturally, this supplier is like, yo, this hat's been here for 3 years. You can take that. So we took that hat, embroidered, Big It Up on the side, found this old tailor, and we had like 20-year run with him, man. Actually not 20, about 15-year run with him. And it was incredible, man. So I learned a lot of my hat game from that man. And so one thing that I realized about life, we learn from each other as human beings. So this man had the know-how. He learned to make hats in Loutraki, Greece when he was like 13 years old. He had the know-how. He died 2 years ago. He was 85 years old. He learned the know-how, but what he didn't have was the knowledge of and the imagination of mixing weird materials. So like when terry cloth became a thing, we're like, yo, you just use this towel material and make these bucket hats. He's like, yo, who's gonna wear a towel? Athletes World ordered 3,000 units. He's like, okay, I see. So it's about mixing imagination.
So his skill set and your innovation.
Absolutely.
and young
Absolutely.
spirit.
Young and the old, bring it all together. You know, mixed universe, mixed world, bring it together because it's a hybrid. And they say that's the strength of Toronto. The hybridization is the strength of Toronto. Like me being Jamaican background, you know, even Jack coming from a Thai Vietnamese background, and just having like these different perspectives come together. It's a different sauce. You create your own unique shit, and you have to do that in life in order to create your own blueprint. No one's gonna do it for you and give you the blueprint to success. You got to create your own. You got to row your own boat till you get to your own port. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of your story stems from actively trying. Like you were out there trying in the place where you met the guy and found the hat. That's what led you to this. So you weren't just sitting on your ass waiting for things to happen. You're out there learning, meeting people who brought you to this guy who brought you. I feel like you have to be.
You got to play the game. You can't sit on the sidelines.
Or you're never gonna get.
In Hollywood, there's six important pillars. They always talk about a hero, which could be you if you want something. So it's a hero who wants something, but the hero has to take action. The hero will meet conflict. The hero will either succeed or fail. That's the climax. And then the resolution. You need all of those. That's what goes into every Hollywood story. You can't. But if the hero is just a hero and he wants something and never takes action, there's no story there. You see your wife, you want to meet your wife, you never step up to her to talk with her, she ain't gonna be your wife. Yeah. You're just gonna be a
coulda, shoulda, woulda.
Coulda, shoulda, woulda. If that's what you want to be, don't take action. But for me, it's important to take action. Even if you don't get what you go out after, you learn something. Failure that's not failure to me.
Greatest lesson.
Greatest lesson. Gotta go after what you want. At least try for it. Believe in it. Believe.
Now, I'm sure having a storefront and meeting so many people on a regular basis, one of the questions people probably ask you, young entrepreneurs who are trying to do the same thing, is, Dame, you guys have this store, it's doing so well, but how did you raise the initial capital? How did you get that first storefront? I'm struggling with that step.
Yes.
So how did that work for you? What was your story?
Man, that kind of story starts early. I'm standing at a bus stop, decked out fly as fuck, in Jordans, in the jeans, the jackets, with like no money in my pocket, and waiting for the bus and being broke and just being like, fuck this shit. I can't do this shit anymore. And I have like a closet at home that's crazy. And I'm just like, no money in my pocket. Can't do this anymore. And then I stop buying the shit, start saving. Then I start buying the things that I need. I get a little car. I start doing all these things. And then, you know what? My mind starts growing more about the business. My friend needs rims for his cars. I sell him my rims. I start doing the things that I need to do, put little money together. And then I consult my brother. I start telling him about, these ideas. And you just start talking on a regular basis with like-minded people. So 3 people come together, put in $3,000 each. That's $9,000. You can do something with $9,000. That's how it starts. You gotta talk about it early. I could have spent the money on the Jordans and continued, but then I wouldn't have any seed money. You need seed money to plant your ideas. Without it, they're just ideas. But you gotta plant those ideas. And as we've discussed, once you start, the momentum keeps going and new opportunities will be found. But you gotta be playing the game. If you're not playing the game, there aren't any opportunities to be found. And even if they come, as Nip would say, opportunity meeting preparation, it's a beautiful thing, right? If you're not prepared for the opportunity when it arrives, it's gone. Like, I've had plenty of opportunities come up, but I haven't always been prepared for them. Like, in a sense, one time we had a man come from Dubai, loved everything we were doing. But at the time, we had a store full of Kangol, other Bailey hats, all kinds of things. Now we produce so much of our own, those opportunities come up, we can scale that shit. Because we don't have a third party to go to say, we need this and we would like to bring this over here and we need a distribution deal. None of that anymore. Cut out the middleman. You make those decisions, you can make those deals happen. And that's what it's about. Become part of production so you can scale your shit.
Okay, so around that time you start Big It Up, you pool money together, you stop investing in other people's brands, investing in yourself, open a storefront, you put your first and last down. Where was the first location, and what happened to Big It Up? What was Big It Up's run? How long was the run, and why did it end?
First location was, I would say, Square One Mall in Mississauga, 1996, a little kiosk. And I had butterflies in my stomach as we pushed it out into the hallway. You know why? Is it gonna succeed? Are we gonna do okay? Are we gonna be laughed at?
The unknown.
But it didn't matter. We're doing it anyway. Because we prepared for it, pushed it out. And it was well received because here was a young black kid who had never been in the malls before. Here you are in the mall. And when you're selling something, they buy you before they buy the product. So there's a certain charisma that you need to have. You can't be shy when you're trying to push your own shit. You gotta step up. If you don't believe in it, who's gonna believe in it? Yeah. So represent it well. And so one of the things that we always did, wear the product. Wear your product, be proud of the product. Whether it doesn't have a Nike backing or the same budget as a Nike, wear your product. You're your backing. And it's direct marketing. When you're in front of that consumer and you're talking with them, they see it on you. If you believe, most likely they're gonna believe. And that's how all that came about. And just, again, you gotta be willing to accept failure if it comes in that form. Because there's something that you're gonna learn from that lesson. And you're gonna apply it to the next phase of your life.
Okay. So you were in Square One for how long did you last in that kiosk before transition?
That kiosk eventually turned into a number of other kiosks. That kiosk turned into one at Scarborough Town Center, Yorkdale, Eaton Center.
I remember one.
So it morphed, and I would say Big It Up grew from 1996 to perhaps 2017, 2018. So it had a more than a 20-year span, man. And Brims grew out of Big It Up. Like we started Brims in 2010 on Queen West, where Chipotle is right now.
Okay.
That was the first Brims location in 2010, man. And then I left Big It Up in 2013. So that was my run was like a 15-year run or so. And I left after that, morphed into Brims and created our own path.
So when you transitioned from Big It Up, which was a staple in the city,
Yeah.
I came here from a different city in Toronto and was aware of Big It Up back in the early 2000s. So it was a well-known name and a well-known brand that you built. Transitioning into a new brand, which was Brims.
Yeah.
Where did Jack come into the picture? How did you guys meet, and how did he get involved with the transition?
So I met Jack many years ago when we were with Big It Up. And Jack was first a customer, believing in the product, loving it, rocking it. And he said he was introduced to Big It Up by his older brother. And so when I met him, he was a young, impressionable kid, but had his own flavor, had his own style. And then we offered him a job. And that's how it came about, man. But he put in many, many years at Big It Up, eventually turning into a manager, getting a company car, getting all that shit. And he earned it. He earned it. And because of that, when I was leaving Big It Up, I offered him a partnership to join me here, because I knew his drive, I knew what the time that he invested in Big It Up, and I wanted him to have something. And so it was one of those things where, you don't accomplish great things on your own. Let's do it together. And so that was the beginning of the foundation. When we started our Instagram, there's only 2 followers, him and me. And that's how it started, man. That's how everything begins.
Organically.
Absolutely, man.
That's dope, man. That's actually really interesting, because with our brand, Cash Feelings, I have a similar story that I was, when my partner Cash was just starting out, I was a customer. So when he first made his first product, I seen it on someone's page and just DM'd him, we connected, and
Amazing.
From there it grew, just naturally. So I feel like it goes back to, you gotta be in the game.
You have to be in the game, man.
Right? Jack was in the game. Jack put himself in position as a customer to an employee, paid his dues.
Absolutely. Because you either come out or support, and if you don't come out and support, you're not in the game. Just like I saw Kid Capri say yesterday, you ain't out there supporting your man. You're out there buying all the Popeye chicken, but you let your man start a business. You ain't out there supporting, you're not promoting, you're not posting, you're not doing nothing to support, right? So it's important for you, when you're within a community, you got to go out there and support other businesses. You have to make sure that your community flourishes, man.
And that's the way things happen.
Yeah.
Now, I know you said it back in the day, and even when I used to see the store back then, it was a lot more outside brands, Kangol, different brands. What was the reason that you guys decided to incorporate not only your own products, but having local brands in the store? When did that come about, and why did you guys make that decision?
I think that came about heavily in like it started in 2013, but then it really took form in like 2014, and 2015 was when it really started swinging, because for us, again, community is very important, so we wanted to be a platform where other local brands can also get a leg up, and where everyone can elevate and bring their game up. And we saw that like Toronto is coming into its own kind of prideful identity, where people were feeling positive about the city. The city was under its own little buzz, and there was a special feeling in the air. And so it became very important to connect with that and identify with that. And also being on Queen, for us, it was like the perfect platform to showcase it.
So many creatives.
Absolutely, tons of creatives, and people naturally just started coming together. It was an organic thing. And so the store started to represent that movement, and it felt very natural for us. And so it was only right that we listened to the ethers and allowed that flow to just continue. And here we are right now with that. We're at the very epicenter of a lot of it, and it's a beautiful thing, man. It's a beautiful thing that this store represents so many brands and so many creatives that are here in the city that are putting in the work. And I'd like this store to be a conduit to other continents, man, for all the brands that are in here. You know what I mean? It's like, I just met a DJ from Barbados who came here. He's in New York right now. We've just been chopping it up. But like, these guys, when you talk about Canada, it's cold in the wintertime. When you go to those places, it's tourist season. It's busy over there. It's busy over there, and you can go over there with your brand and sell for 6 months and make a bigger bag than you would make here, because you're getting all kinds of US tourists and all kinds of people who want fresh things.
Yep.
They don't have it on the island. That's the type of flex that I'm talking about. Making those kind of links and making those possibilities come true. Wouldn't you like to disappear for 6 months and knowing that you can come back for the next 6, benefit from the summer, or you come back with a bag that you didn't miss anything.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing you missed was winter.
Yeah, you
and,
got to enjoy
your jacket.
yourself, make money,
Oh, yeah.
experience life at the same time.
I'm about that.
Yeah.
That's what I'm about.
Okay. Now, I know that owning your own space, especially with entrepreneurship being so like trendy and in right now, when you're watching YouTube, I can't even watch 30 seconds of a video without someone saying, hey, you want to own your own business? Just watch this quick little video. It's easy. You can start your own thing, right? So, especially having a brick and mortar right now, it's cool. You have your own hub. What are some of the struggles of having a brick and mortar that people don't really get to see?
So what people don't realize is that you got to pay for your brick and mortar. Your brick and mortar is expensive. This place costs us over 10 racks every month just to maintain, right? And that's the minimum. That doesn't include labor. It doesn't include hydro and all the other things that go into it. That's just a turnkey. But you're paying that to someone else. You want to be under that pressure to give someone 10 racks every month for what? For all your hard work and your labor. So the thing is, people think it's easy. It's not easy. And right now, the internet, if you're gonna have a bustling online brand, that's the way right now, because you're engaging people and you can do it from the comforts of your warehouse or your home. You just gotta ship them the product and get them product. That's a better solution right now. And you're not dealing with a landlord. Again, you're cutting out the middleman, because that middleman takes a big chunk. You know, so even for us, like we spent this year doing a lot more online, and the engagement was amazing. And I actually prefer that. We do need a space like this. It doesn't have to be specifically this space, but when you have a space, it becomes a sacred space.
A hub.
It's a hub where people can come and they can engage you. You want them to be able to come and do that and have the offline experience as well. It's very important for them to have that ability. So it's cool to have the brick and mortar, but it's very expensive. And so people have to weigh that in the balance. If you want that expense on your head and that kind of pressure, then have the brick and mortar, but you got to manage it, and you got to make it a space that's engaging when people come, that they're buying something from you and they're not just showrooming it, because Amazon has showroomed a lot of things. So a lot of the things that you're finding here, you don't see them on Amazon. So people will come in and they'll spend because it's not on Amazon.
Yeah.
But if it's there, you're showroomed. They just want to try it, touch it, they'll buy it online, and it's cheaper online.
So creating that community and kind of that give and take of you're spending a crazy amount of money for rent, but the get back you have is the community, the hub, the meeting the people. It's a hard trade-off to just go online. I've seen that in building that community, you guys are big on partnerships.
Yeah, for sure.
Can you speak a little bit about some of the partnerships you guys have with RBC, Foot Action? How do those partnerships come about, and what do they look like?
So, I mean, in order to achieve anything monumental, you need partners to do it, because you can outstretch your hand, but you know, another entity has to stretch theirs as well, and together you can rise. With RBC, it was an incredible partnership because they came on board and invested a lot in us. We became de facto ambassadors, where we provided them with like a soul within the city, which they benefited from in like a halo effect. It was a positive effect because we connected with so many artists, with so many creatives. And the bank is the bank. The bank doesn't have that image, right? It's old guys that are financially sound, but the charisma is lacking. Yeah. Whereas here we are as creatives, we have a cool store on Queen West, there's a lot of charisma.
Yeah, you're more connected to the people.
Absolutely, connected to the people, and it was like a direct conduit to those people. But then what they did for us, we didn't have access to those media outlets. We didn't have access to that production team who could make a slick video, who can pay for the ads during Raptor games, who could pay for the ads during Leaf games, and wanted to see us grow, wanted to expand, and we're truly, genuinely happy to see the positive feedback that we're getting from that kind of visibility. So having a partner like that, man, you can't even put that into words. It meant so much. We're still benefiting from that kind of partnership. We keep getting, introduced to different divisions within RBC, and they have their own projects that we're always working on at a different time. And what that does for us, it's not a customer that comes into the store that's doing that. Now we're working with an organization that has 80,000 employees, and they say, we're doing this town hall with our CEO. We want you to come on stage, set up a pop-up shop. I've never seen a pop-up shop like that in my life. I felt like, you ever see whales feed at a krill station, where you set up your thing and you're surrounded, and as you're producing, you see the shelves just going down.
Instant audience that's just
instant.
Yeah.
With buying power. Crazy.
So, speaking of this, first on the RBC, even with you speaking with, on that partnership, it seems that you're very much aware of your value, but at the same time, their value. But at the same time, you're very much aware of your value.
Absolutely.
And that's something I speak a lot to about with other brands who are coming up about cultural currency.
Yes.
And the value that we have, being people who are on the ground level of the culture.
Absolutely.
And not to sell yourself short.
Absolutely.
How important is cultural currency to you when you're doing these collabs?
Cultural currency is everything, because that's what you bring to the table. That's your value. And if you don't understand your value, you give it away quite quickly because it's of no value to you. But that's your bag right there. That's your real bag. Not only because it's just a side piece that you have, it's because you're steeped in it. That is you. You're not separate from that culture. And so if you come to the table and you think that someone's giving you everything, you have nothing to offer, then you get a cheap deal. You're just like a one-night date when you could be married. You'd rather be married because the relationship continues and it only gets better over time. You want it to be better over time. And so when you constantly are learning and you know that there are ways to improve relationships and you're constantly adding to that mix, it only becomes better. Bigger and better things are always happening. And you also have to go out there and seek those opportunities. If you don't go out there and seek those opportunities, like even with Foot Action, you learn about organizations and what they offer to young creatives, and then you have to actively go out there and seek it. Call people up, send an email, reach out, go for a meeting and start proposing what you could do for them as well. Build it. And if you build it, even when they believe you can't, like even when we worked with Foot Action, it came down to the wire where even like 1 or 2 nights before the event took place, when we were going in there, they thought, oh no, we're gonna cancel the event. We didn't get enough RSVPs. When the night came, you know what they said to us? Even the big brands that we've worked with, we've never seen a turnout like this before, and we've never seen people put so much effort and work into developing the space and making it feel like it's totally organic. They said, I wish our big brands would work like this.
Took that attention to detail.
They were blown away. They were blown away, but they're ready to also cut the umbilical cord and kill it, because you're a small brand. You don't have the budget that the others have, but you also have an imagination and a vision. And so sometimes people have to allow that to come through, but you also have to believe in yourself, even when the big guys don't believe.
And create value.
You gotta believe.
Create value.
Create your value. Absolutely. You must believe.
100%. Now, recently something that I know we personally discussed a little bit was the decision for you to go out and buy the necessary equipment to now produce,
so important, man.
Embroider and make your own stuff in home. Going back to talking about cutting out the middleman. At this stage of where you guys are in Brims, what pushed you to make that decision?
We've been in the game a long time, and I have like this thing that's burning inside of me, always wanting to, again I say it, be a part of production. Understand your craft, because if you understand your craft, you're so much more valuable to yourself and to your organization. If everyone does everything for you, that means you're paying for a service. I'm paying you to peel my orange when I can cut my own orange. I can dice it myself, right? Squeeze my own juice. If I pay you to squeeze my juice, I get my juice, but I don't really understand how it's done.
And you pay double.
And I'm gonna pay double. I'm gonna pay triple.
Exactly.
You're gonna tell me it's organic, right?
Exactly.
And so, even when we're thinking about buying the machine, I gotta tell you, I was scared. It's a lot of money. And I was scared because the one thing that I didn't want to do, because we've bought small machines before, and they weren't exactly easy to use. So they sat there. You don't want to spend money on something that's going to sit there. So I was scared. But I would,
big investment.
Yeah. So I'd consult with Jack and I'd say like, yo man, you really, because I'm pushing for it, but I'm like, you really want to spend the money on that?
Justify that.
Yeah.
That cost.
You really want to? And I'm like, okay, let's go see this machine. Let's go work on it a couple days. And the first days I started working on it, I was sweating, man. I was nervous because I couldn't do it. It was hard.
Figuring out.
But I had this teacher. She was a middle-aged Chinese woman. Her English wasn't perfect, but she was a great teacher. And she'd push you like a drill sergeant. You do it wrong? No, do it again. Redo it. I'm sweating. And I'm working on this machine. And she'd go through all the basics of it. And I'm so happy that I had her as a teacher, because I worked with other embroiderers and they miss certain stages. And then when the embroidery comes out crooked, I'm like, yo, but they're missing stages because they're just trying to
rushing the job.
Rush. But when you care about what you're doing, the way this lady showed me, oh man, I thank her every day for it. So by the time she finished training me after several days, I started to get some know-how, but there's a lot to manage at first. So there's like information overload. It was only when we bought it and I brought it here and I'd stay late nights and start working with it. And then you start to figure out the nuances of the machine. Like it's a 2-head, so you start working with it. One thread breaks, the machine stops. It tells you under thread break, over a thread break. You gotta fix it. You press the red button to rewind the machine. It goes back. Okay, you rethread it, press the green button. The machine starts only the one head that's broken, and it continues. And then it stops on its own. It says, I caught up to the other machine. Restart me. And both of them start. The first time it did that, I was like, yo, this is a smart machine. And then you start to understand it. Then you start to become really good on it. But you have to spend the time with it. And now, that's like my baby. I know how to use that really well, but it's because I spent the time with it. So no, I'm no longer afraid to use it. It was a wise investment. It's already paid for itself.
There you go.
Crazy.
So you're taking that leap of faith. And 2, 1. Okay, so there was definitely a return on investment quicker probably than you expected with that machine.
Absolutely.
Now staying innovative and always trying to stay ahead of the curve and figure out new ways to generate revenue. I saw that you guys were doing vending machines.
Yeah.
Or a hat vending machine.
Yeah.
Where did that idea come from? And what does that business model look like?
We're always looking for different ways of distribution. And again, sometimes you don't have all the answers, but you have a part of the answer. And so if you can produce, then you meet a partner along the way that has access to equipment. And so that was a perfect match where one of our customers who was in the menswear business has access to all these machines. He was always trying to scale his business, but found his business very hard to scale. And so he started going into vending machines. And he has a number of different products in vending machines. So naturally he said he has very high-end clients. He saw one of his clients wearing one of our hats. Yo, that's fresh, where'd you get that? Naturally, Brims. He ended up down here. He met Jack and the conversation came up. I have these machines. I think this would be amazing. Jack comes to me, what do you think? Naturally, I'm thinking about this thing, passive income. We can market it, we can promote it. It just came together, like the synergy was there. And so we put it in the airport, we put it at Bramley City Center, and it was a way of it was an innovative way of putting a product that people already know about in an unconventional machine and put it in unconventional spaces. It didn't go to the mall. You can get a lot of things in the mall. It was at an airport. Well, it did go to one mall during the Christmas months. But the airport, you're coming and going. Traffic, you need something quick, you forgot a hat, you want to take a gift to someone, boom, right there. Easy access. Plus the machine is a 24-hour employee. It's continuously working. It's connected to Wi-Fi. You know everything that's going on with it. There's a back-end interface. You can see what's missing. Wow. You can restock. You can do everything with that machine. It's 2019. Technology is everything. And that's the beauty of that. And so what we're trying to do with that now is expand it. We want to do more in the States with those vending machines. in some really cool spots. Like, it could be Brooklyn, it could be Florida. We're just looking at some different options right there of how to expand that footprint. We also have to find the right, I would say, retail partners to work with, you know, at some of those airports over there. Sorry about this.
So now we'll talk a little bit about the ups and downs, what goes into operating a space like this, having such a high rent. There's frustrations that come with opening a business, but what motivates you still to this day after been doing it since 1996, all these years? What motivates you to come in every day and open the store?
Creativity. What motivates me every day is the ability to create, the ability to see that when you create something and people want to come and cop it, that is very addictive. Like, once you start feeling that, and you know that you're just as good as anybody else out there that's creating something. But if you truly want to, you know, create something meaningful for people and create a legacy for your people, your family, your community, you got to do it more and with more intensity and push back. I always have like this kind of philosophy that life grinds you down, pushes on you, but your duty is to also push back with equal intensity or more intensity. If you don't push back with more intensity, it definitely grinds you down. But your duty is to push back even harder. And that's where creativity comes from. And they say you'll find yourself most useful when you're actually creating something, when you're not stuck in your own head. And that's when you find the most fruitful scenarios. And with this, it becomes a collaborative effort. We get to create with so many people. We get to, you know, spin ideas off so many people, and opportunities come with it. Like, tons of opportunities open up just because you're actually actively doing something. And when you're doing something, creativity generates income. It truly does. It generates opportunities. And if you're not doing it, then just go work for someone. And you'll have less opportunities, but you'll have a paycheck. If that's what you want, that's what you want. I never wanted that. I never wanted just simple convention. I always wanted more, because I always felt like I deserved more. I always felt like, not that I'm special, but for me, I have my own way of doing things. I like to create my own systems. And if you can create your own system, then it becomes your own safety net, right? It becomes your magic carpet ride. Create your magic carpet ride. You want to have a fun life? Create it. Don't dream it. I remember my friend went and he saw Wiz Khalifa, and he was with Wiz, and Wiz said, man, when you see somebody on TV and you say wow, don't say wow, be that shit. Those words mean everything to me. If there's something you want to be it. Don't be afraid to be it. Be it. Go out and do it. Real talk.
Yeah, man. I think that having somebody like you, somebody who I guess looks like so many of the brands coming out, we can see ourselves in somebody like you who's done it before. From a young black designer, entrepreneur myself, I just wanted to say that we're grateful for the opportunity. When we stepped foot in this door a few years ago, we were just starting and you took a chance on us. We built a great relationship ever since. We've had Cash Feelings here for at least 3 years now, consistently, even as you guys are now transitioning into having clothing. We were able to maintain that relationship.
For sure.
So I just wanted to say that I feel that just the energy that you bring with the store, your willingness to teach and to allow people who are willing to listen to learn, is something that needs to be it needs to be celebrated. So that's part of the reason why I wanted to come here today, and why stories like yours we feel need to be heard. That being said, at the end of the day, you're still living your story. It's only just begun. But when your time does come up, how do you want to be remembered?
I want to be remembered through stories. Like, this is just a part of the story. Like, for me, you know what my deepest desire is, man? To create films. That's my deepest desire. That's why I work with those kids in Jane and Finch. I've been doing it for 10 years. And I was very lucky in my life. I was able to spend some time living with some filmmakers. So maybe I got the little bug from that, but there's a power in story. This is part of a story. This is a slice of my life,
yeah.
Right? That's only what this is. but I'd like to also put something on a screen someday, and people can remember me, you know, by that. And for me, this should be something that I can do successfully that actually allows me to finance my own projects. That's what I really want to come out of this, where we can grow this into something that can help me finance other things. But more importantly, man, I want to be remembered by being able to impact other people's lives. I don't just want money to help myself. I like money because money is a tool for us to make the place better for other people. Like when you can impact other people's lives, like what wouldn't I would love to be able to take money and see, let's say, struggling communities, being able to go in there and create a game plan and actually implement something that turns around that community, that engages people and puts them in the driver's seat, and spend the time with them to train them how to maintain it, and then watch it over the years change and watch them change their children's lives. I would love that. For me, that's how I want to be remembered. And I need to get to that place where we can do that, where I can walk the street, I don't have to feel afraid of anybody in the toughest way, because I've been there, and I've been there face to face helping. That's how I want to be remembered, my man.
Yeah, well, I think that with all you're doing and all that you've done, not only are you on the way, but I think that, like you said, this is only maybe the first 15 minutes of your film, man. So once again, Dame, love as always. I appreciate
Much
you.
love, definitely. And I love what you guys have been doing with the line, because this is the thing about business as well. You have to find ways to also cut out the middleman in some ways. And I see what you guys have been doing with your chenille patches and all the things, but it also brings innovation to the marketplace. Like, okay, everyone's doing embroidery, they're doing other things. What did you do? You stepped out of the box and you found a way to be innovative and to create something that's fresh for people. That's the way. Without that imagination, that doesn't happen. But you have to think about all those avenues and how to do it. But it makes a difference. And you see how people respond to it. That's what it takes. And it's always going to change. You know what they always said about Apple? Apple was a target, but it was a moving target. iPod, iPad, iPhone,
yep.
All kinds of things. So everyone's MP3 player copying morph into iPhone.
They were already 2 years ahead.
Always a moving target.
Yeah.
Be a target, but just keep moving, keep changing, because they can't follow your creativity. Just do what you're doing, be you, and do it well.
Yeah.
Execute.
And we look to brands like you, who are constantly transitioning from, even when we've seen you guys transition from more fedora based to more cap based to bigger retailers to smaller retailers, constantly reinventing yourself. We kind of have the same business model, me and my partner. When things start getting hot, that's when I get nervous.
I feel
When
you,
things
man.
start getting hot, I'm like, no, we gotta start figuring out the next stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because this is gonna die down. So
Absolutely.
I don't get comfortable in those moments. I get creative.
Yes, and you have to use that. Whatever's coming in from what's hot, use that as
Push it towards the next thing.
yeah,
Reinvest into ourselves.
That's absolutely.
All right. So once
that's the
again,
way.
Dame, it's been a pleasure, man, sitting down with you.
Likewise, man.
Thank you for allowing us in your space, not only today, but for the past few years. So once again, love.
Thank you for including me in the family, man.
Love, brother.
Much love, fam.
Ah.
Blessings. Blessings.